good afternoon. Heva Homenda, Konnichiwa, Xiaohao. My name is Kathleen, and it is my privilege to welcome you all to join us today for Academic Forum Series 6, Non-Formal Education as Interface between University and Community, as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the founding of Li Ka-shing School of Professional and Continuing Education, Hong Kong Metropolitan University. For today's Academic Forum, we are honored to have invited a panel of prominent international speakers from Finland, Taiwan, and Japan, who will be sharing with us the important role of universities in bridging the gap between formal and non-formal education to promote lifelong learning and empower all members of our societies. We are also very excited to meet our participants online, who come from various post-secondary and continuing education schools in Hong Kong, as well as different parts of the world, including Malaysia, Pakistan, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, and the United Kingdom. Thank you all for making time in your busy schedules to join us here today, and a very warm welcome to you all. Now, to kickstart the Academic Forum, please join me in welcoming our President of Hong Kong Metropolitan University, Professor Paul Lam Kwan Singh, to deliver his opening address. Professor Lam, please.
Dr. Tuami, Dr. Sato, Professor Jiang, Dean Dr. Chen, guests and participants. Welcome to the Academic Forum Series 6, Non-Formal Education as an Interface between the University and the Community. On behalf of Hong Kong Metropolitan University, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to our honorable speakers for taking the time to share their valuable knowledge and experience. Our special thanks also go to the Finnish Lifelong Learning Foundation and the Department of Adult and Continuing Education of National Taiwan Normal University for the support in promoting this forum. This is the first celebratory event of the Li Ka-shing School of Professional and Continuing Education, LiPACE, to commemorate the school's 30th anniversary in 2022. LiPACE, as one of the 7 schools of Hong Kong Metropolitan University, has always strived to provide quality post-secondary vocational and professional education. It performs a complementary but vital role in fulfilling the university's founding mission of providing education for all, as evidenced by the extensive range of disciplines and study levels in its program offerings. More specifically, LiPACE is now an established vocational professional education and training provider of full-time post-secondary education and part-time professional and continuing education programs, as well as corporate training courses. At the same time, the school advances non-formal learning through its 2 flagship programs for women and senior learners, namely the Capacity Building Mileage Program and the Elder Academy at Hong Kong Metropolitan University. I'm particularly delighted to inform everyone that our non-formal learning programs have been boosted by new funding from the Labour and Welfare Bureau and the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer of the Hong Kong SAR government. The newly released UNESCO Education Report titled Reimagining Our Futures Together has renewed calls to extend educational opportunities throughout life and in different cultural and social spaces. Higher education institutions have a 3rd mission of contributing to the community, and university educators often play the role of advocates, organizers, and researchers in community learning. In this forum, we are honored to have a panel of distinguished speakers from countries and regions with a strong tradition of non-formal education: liberal adult education in Finland, Kominkan in Japan, and community university in Taiwan. We look forward to listening to the presentations of our distinguished speakers, whose insights will help us refine and strengthen our practices. Most importantly, we will together explore the role of universities in bridging the gap between formal education and non-formal education through credit recognition for prior learning and organizing non-formal learning opportunities for all the members of our community. Lastly, I would like to extend my thanks to our LiPACE colleagues who are involved in organizing this forum. I wish this forum great success. I hope all of you will have a rewarding and fruitful exchange of ideas. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, President. It is our honor to have you with us today. May I now invite Professor Lam to present flags of appreciation to our honorable speakers as a way to express our gratitude for their generous support. First, may I invite Professor Lam to present an appreciation flag to Dr. Lauri Tuomi from Finland.
Hi, Lauri. Good to see you.
Hello.
I hope one day I can hand this certificate to you.
Yeah, I really hope so too.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, may Professor Lam please present an appreciation flag to Dr. Tomoko Sato from Japan.
Dr. Sato,
Hello.
good to see you. Again, I'd like to be able to do this in person. Okay.
Thank you very much to invite me. So,
Thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, may I invite Professor Lam to present an appreciation flag to Professor Chang Tae-yong from Taiwan.
Professor Zhang, I like to be able to do it in person, but thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you very much for your time and your effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And now we'll take a virtual group photo to mark this memorable event. Would everyone please look directly at the lens of the camera for a few seconds? And I'm sure our colleagues will get some nice shots for us. Thank you so much, everyone. So here's the format of today's academic forum. Now, without further ado, I'm excited to introduce to you our first speaker of today's forum. Dr. Lauri Tuomi is the CEO of the Finnish Lifelong Learning Foundation and Vice President of the European Association of the Education of Adults. He holds a PhD in Economics and Business Administration with a teaching qualification. He was the Vice President of Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences, and is also a founding partner of 2 companies in the field of publishing and strategic management. Dr. Tuomi has held the following positions of trust: as member of the board and board of directors, and chairman of the board of the Finnish Lifelong Learning Foundation, committees of the Ministry of Education and Culture, such as a steering group of Finland's Global Education Expert Network, and a steering group of Finland's role in solving the global learning crisis. Board of the Association for Business Sciences, Board of Finland's Association of Adult Education, and several boards of educational institutions such as Helsinki Conservatory of Music. Dr. Tuomi sees non-formal education and civic education as very topical. He's authored several books, with his latest research focusing on higher education management. For Dr. Tuomi, learning has intrinsic value and is one of the building blocks for a good life. Today, he'll be sharing with us lifelong learning and liberal adult education, the case of Finland. Please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Dr. Lauri Tuomi from Finland. Dr. Tuomi, please.
Thank you very much. And I'm really happy to join the forum today. And I will first share the screen in order to start the presentation. Just a moment. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and greetings from Helsinki, Finland. Actually, it's morning here. And hopefully we could see face-to-face very soon after the pandemic period of time, but luckily we have these digital tools to share and share our ideas and share our experiences and also meet each other. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm really happy to provide you with the presentation of liberal adult education in Finland and lifelong learning. I'm also very happy that our foundation, Finnish Lifelong Learning Foundation, was invited to support this forum this year. So let's begin. So in my presentation, I will very shortly present our foundation to you, and then I will very closely also preview with the Finnish education system, which consists of the idea of lifelong learning. Then I will discuss the concepts bildung, and in Finnish we call it sivistys, as a background kind of philosophy for our Finnish liberal adult education. And then I shortly will discuss with you also the future of lifelong learning and adult education. So the Finnish context is in this respect very interesting in regard to education, because Finland, as you all know, is a very small country, quite in the top of global, so in the northern Scandinavia, and with scarce natural resources. So it has been seen that the only real natural resource is the competence of our competencies of our citizens, and then education and learning and lifelong learning has been seen very important during the at least 200 years, and during which period also Finland became independent. This today we can say that this human capital has transformed Finland to become one of the most successful countries in the world, as the country was one of the poorest ones during the decades on which the compulsory education and the development of lifelong learning started. So still we see that education is a key element to the success of the society. And there are some of course some of the results on which of course I'm really happy to share these ideas, because I know also that Hong Kong has been very successful on education also. So today we are very successful, but that was not the case, as I said, in the early years. So the Finnish Lifelong Learning Foundation was established in the year 1874. And this foundation is the oldest organization in Finland to promote lifelong learning. And in 2024, we celebrate our 150 years anniversary. And also with our Ministry of Education and Culture, we have agreed to have a year of bildung and lifelong learning, a thematic year in Finland at that year, to celebrate the huge history of lifelong learning in Finland. So I also hope that we could see many of you on those during that year in Finland to share and celebrate the lifelong learning and learning as a whole. The history has been very glorious. Also, the foundation has been supporting the establishments of Finnish libraries, teachers' education, liberal adult education sector, and also new innovations in learning, and especially in distance learning. It is worthwhile to mention that 100 years ago, during the period of another pandemic, so it was the time of Spanish influenza pandemic, Finnish Lifelong Learning Foundation was the first one to start distance education in Finland. So we celebrated actually last year the 100 years anniversary of distance education in Finland. Of course, during those days it was a correspondence-based distance education, but today, of course, digital education. So the foundation has got many roles on supporting society and supporting the lifelong learning of the citizens. And then how we operate today, we provide lifelong learning services. We publish lifelong learning media also, and also we run quite many of innovative projects. I would like to mention that there is an open magazine, European Lifelong Learning magazine, which is published by the foundation, and it's free and accessible for everyone. So I would like to invite you to take a look at on the publication. It's focused for the adult educators around the world, even though the name is European Lifelong Learning magazine. And also connections to university sector, we publish also a scientific journal, which is Finnish on adult education, and then we do a very close collaboration with the universities in Finland on science also. So that was the background of our foundation and its connections to Finnish society and liberal adult education. And then the liberal adult education, its role in Finnish education system. As I said, the system is based on the idea of lifelong learning. So in the education structure, there are no dead ends. So the student may choose his her own path, whatever he or she wants to reach in education is possible. So it can be also so that, for example, a student in vocational education may have an idea to continue in academic field. That's possible, and also vice versa. And also on the right-hand side, you can see that there is a liberal adult education mentioned. The sector provides learning opportunities to all citizens, no matter what is the background, previous education or age. So the sector has a specific role to support the idea of lifelong learning, that in whatever phase of your life you are, you will always have possibilities to learn, and also not matter what is the age. For example, in today in liberal education, there is a very wide variety of age groups of adults and even younger ones to take part on non-formal education. Also, the system is under continuous development because the society changed. There are global changes which also challenge the system. So there are many reforms going on every now and then. And one of the reforms today is so-called reform on continuing education. And that reform focuses on the development of individuals in the labor market. And also liberal adult education sector is invited to join this reform. And I will tell a bit later how this is then taught, what would be the role of liberal adult education in that field. So then if we take a look at first on the concept of Bildung, or in Finnish sivistys, as a space for the liberal adult education. These are quite complex terms, and quite many of you, of course, already know them from the theoretical perspectives and also from practice. So in Finland, our term is quite closely connected to societal development. So the learning is seen to be self-cultivated and provide civilization and education for the society and so on. So sivistys is something which is supporting the society to flourish with active citizens. Bildung, which is a German concept, is a bit more focused on individuals and individuals learning, and but also there is the idea of transformative civic education, which means that education is something more than just to get knowledge. It provides opportunities to transform and change, and it provides also open-mindedness towards new information. So of course these two concepts are very closely based for the idea of lifelong learning. In Finland, we say that sivistys could be seen from three concepts: bildung, civilization, and civility. It's a combination of these three aspects. And as bildung is also linked to Humboldtian model for higher education, so education is seen as a lifelong process rather than gaining just skills and knowledge. So how this idea has been then implemented in Finland, the sector of liberal adult education, and which is in Finnish vapaa sivistystyö. Vapaa means actually also free or open. So there are many perspectives on this term, and it's based on the ideas of bildung and sivistys. So it's connected to societal development, it's connected to individuals and for the lifelong learning. And it's also kind of free of formal educational restrictions. And in this respect, it's open for everyone, and it promotes people's versatile development. And also the idea is that education and training support the cohesion of the society, equality, active citizenship, and so on. And it's accessible for everyone. And also emphasizes self-motivated learning, a sense of community and inclusion. And today we know that the community idea is very important for the students and participants in liberal adult education. The learning communities have been very important during many research reports or surveys, and also on feedback. It's not only that the individuals have opportunity to learn, but it's also learning a kind of community which learns together. And today, the provision of lifelong learning is provided by 5 different types of organizations. In Scandinavia, especially folk high schools have been the first ones to start the idea of liberal adult education. Those have been boarding schools for everyone. And for example, it has been very popular to study 1 year after the secondary education, 1 year in folk high school, and then to continue, for example, in academic university. But these boarding schools provide a wide variety of non-formal educational courses, which usually are quite also longer than the courses in adult education centers. Adult education centers are local centers, usually owned by the municipalities, but they are also independent organizations which provide these centers. And their role is to also kind of provide education to the needs of the region and also to the local needs. And then 3 other organizations are there. So learning centers are centers which provide education to the civic associations in Finland. Finland is a country of associations. There are hundreds or thousands of associations, so there are many needs on the associations to provide education to their members and their staff. summer universities are regional organizations which provide open university courses to everyone, and they do not operate. They started to operate during summertime. That today they operate around a year. And sports training centers are very kind of interesting phenomenon in Finnish liberal education. Even though they focus on the training of the athletes, they provide also non-formal education and learning for all citizens in the field of sports. So how is the future of liberal adult education in Finland? Finnish government published last year education policy report covering the whole education in Finland, and liberal adult education will have its specific role in the future too. This paper covers the years 2021 until 2040, and citizens' competence and well-being have been seen the kind of topic or focus for liberal adult education, and the role has been seen also in this report very important. And what is the new in the field is that even though this is non-formal education and also raised from the regional or local needs or individual needs, these competencies can today also be identified and recognized. I will tell you a bit about that also, which is quite new in this field in Finland. And also there is a very specific mission of liberal adult education. So the basic skills have been seen important, for example, for the migrants, and that has been one specific role of these institutions, and still will have role in the future. So to go to the next part, so very shortly about this identification and recognition. In Finland, we have a national repository of education, which is a database for education covering all citizens, and every citizen have its own kind of platform, My Study Info, on which you can see all of the courses and degrees you have gained during your lifetime. And today also this non-formal education can be identified and recognized, and that has been started in Finnish adult education centers already. And this is a new issue because this has changed the way the curricula has needed to be changed. The curricula should be competence-based in order to then be able to identify and recognize the competencies. And the idea is to support citizens' well-being and lifelong learning to make visible the learning you have get during your lifetime. And then also, of course, this supports the working career plans individuals have when they can show all the learning and competencies gained during the lifetime. So this is something new, and this is the connection also from liberal adult education to the field of continuing education for the labor market. And then to final and conclude my presentation, some aspects for the future. In Finland, we still see that liberal education and lifelong learning will have a strong role in the society, maybe even stronger than before because of the change of our society. And there are many, many challenges we have gained: pandemic, also climate change, and any other societal challenges. And in European Union also the same trend can be seen. European Union published the new European Agenda for Adult Education for 2030. And we were really happy in EAEA, in which I'm vice president, as I said. That was one of our focus to advocate the work of this agenda, that this holistic approach should be integrated to this strategy in European level. So education has wider impacts than only individuals gaining skills. It has a kind of link to the society and societal success. And same kind of issues can be seen in other reports also. We already heard that UNESCO has published this Reimagining Our Futures Together. We can see that also this this paper, which is global paper for on the role of education and future of our planet. So education and lifelong learning has its very strong role, and at least the expectation is strong, and a challenge to all of us is there, and this is a very good report to have a kind of context how we could build the future. And also this year is very important. In the summertime, there is UNESCO's Confintia, and number 7, the conference of education and lifelong learning. And of course, the expectations are very strong for the conference also, that UNESCO will also highlight the importance of lifelong learning during, and also the countries attending the conference are highlighting the importance. And of course, we do not need to forget the sustainable development goals, which are still there, and also the challenges, as I said, which are there. There are many issues which also challenge and also call every provider of lifelong learning to support the society and our globe to be to survive and to become successful in the future. So with these words, I would like to thank you, and if there are any questions, I'm really happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tuomi, for your insightful sharing on lifelong education in Finland and the ideas of build-on and synthesis. We have a question from the audience. So the question is, the size of adult participation in non-formal learning in Finland is very significant, some 1 million out of a population of 5.6 million, which translates to about 80% of the population. So what do you think is the main motivating factor or factors for adults to engage in non-formal learning and maintain this high participation rate consistently?
Yes, that's very good question, a very important question. The number of the participants is very high, and we see that it in the future should be even higher. So I think you have also faced the issue that lifelong learning is something which is cumulative. So the persons who are otherwise interested in to learn, they want to continue and learn more. So also in Finland, we have this challenge that the persons participating annually are also persons who are these kind of enlightened by the lifelong learning. So we need to get new groups to participate. The main number of participants are today women, which we see, of course, it's very good and very important. But more men are also needed to join, and also the groups which are not that active in the society. So we need to see also and find that kind of groups, refugees and immigrants who may not even know that there is this possibility. So there's a lot to do, and we call it as a kind of outreach activity to meet people and to tell them that there is possibility that you can almost free of charge to join and learn whatever you ever have liked to learn. So that's something we have faced. So we are happy that we have been able to keep this 1 million number, and it's of course based on the very long tradition in Finland that we appreciate education and also the provision of liberal education is so wide. It covers all the sectors from sports to something to do with your hands and languages and culture and so on.
Thank you for answering our audience's question, and again for your great presentation. Thank you, Dr. Kwame.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will now move on to the second presentation of today, which will be Dr. Tomoko Sato from Japan. Dr. Sato completed her PhD in education at the University of Tokyo in 2012. She has served as an associate professor at the Institute for Excellence in Higher Education, Tohoku University, since 2016, and is a vice director at the University Center for Learning Support. Dr. Sato is a passionate advocate for the importance of lifelong learning, and her research reflects this. Her current research study, funded by the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, focuses on how kominkans, or community learning centers, impact community governance. Through her work, she hopes to identify a learning environment that fosters and promotes the learning of democracy in terms of institutional design and policy formation. Her topic today is why and how is the kominkan a hub for everyone to learn in the community? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Dr. Tomoko Sato from Japan. Dr. Sato, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to have the opportunity to give this presentation, and I'd like to thank you all for being here today. I'm Tomoko Sato from the Tohoku University. I'm a little nervous and I'm not good at English, so please forgive me if I get anything wrong. Today, I'd like to talk to you about Japanese kominkan, with a particular focus on the way it supports and strengthens networks of communities. The topic of my speech is why and how the kominkan is a hub for everyone to learn in the community. There may be a little too many slides, but I'll progress a bit fast. Today's presentation, I will cover 4 points. Firstly, we will review the meaning and definition of kominkans in Japan. Next, we will look at the background or history of it. After that, I will introduce the current conditions of kominkan, their challenges and developments. Finally, I will show you a case study of kominkan's activities before summarizing. First, I'd like to talk about what the kominkan is. In general, kominkan is a kind of lifelong learning center in each community, just like a library or a museum. Basically, many of kominkans are smaller than a library or a museum. According to government statistics, Japan has about 3,400 libraries and 5,800 museums. On the other hand, there are about 14,000 kominkans. Kominkan scale varies. It may be a large facility with many rooms in an urban area, or a small building with just 1 to 3 rooms in a rural area. And their legal status varies from era to era and region to region. In the early days, they were places for learning provided by residents with their own money. Later, they became facilities built by municipalities based on national laws. Put it simply, there are two main purposes why the Kominkan has been established. Both are important, but Kominkans of different municipalities focus on one aspect or the other. The first is to develop the intelligence and culture of individuals. This means learning aspects of knowledge and skills not available in daily life. In this context, Kominkans are an alternative or complementary to university. The second is for collective life and community development. It means learning how to find and solve problems in daily life. So Kominkans are place or spaces for real experiential learning. What are the differences between the two? For the first purpose, the Kominkan needs well-developed courses and great instructors, and requires professional staffing and well-equipped facilities. On the other hand, for the second purpose, it provides a platform for activities where citizens can interact and connect through events or workshops. This requires competent facilitators or coordinators to make or support networks with each school, associations, and community. We have the two typical types of Kominkan. One is the initial and rural type. This type emphasizes the purpose of collective life and community development. Since they were established in smaller areas, they are smaller in size and more in number than the other type. Their focus is on community participation and autonomous management as a community. This type is reliant on community-based ties among people, all of whom are basically cooperative and following social expectation. The other is the rural and urban type of Kominkan. This type emphasizes the purpose of development, intelligence, and the culture of individuals. They are relatively large, but have lower numbers per population. Additionally, they have a more bureaucratic management system because their municipalities are large. This type focuses not on community, but each individual citizen who learns independently. Next, I will talk about the background of Kominkan. I will start with the background on why the two types originated. When the initial idea was published in 1946, the notification and documents regarding the initial concept were issued by the Ministry of Education. This was just to advocate that municipalities and citizens should build Kominkans, but the advocacy didn't have any legal restrictions. Then, in 1949, the social education law was enacted. With this enactment, the construction of the Kominkan became an obligation of each local government. In Article 20 of this law, the Kominkan is defined as follows. Kominkan shall conduct various educational, academic, and cultural activities that are relevant to actual life for the residents of the municipality and other certain areas. The purpose of the Kominkan is to improve the culture of the residents, to promote their health, to enrich their mental well-being, to contribute to the promotion of life and culture, and to promote social welfare. Why did we need the Kominkan in 1946? At that time, after World War II, Japanese citizens had to rebuild their lives and society. In the document of the initial Kominkan concept, the reasons for the need of the Kominkan were explained as follows. Kominkans were needed to train ourselves to make democracy on our own and to make pacifism an ingrained habit, to acquire a rich culture and to create a cultured personality, and to develop industry in our hometowns, to rebuild local politics, and to enrich our lives through our acquired education and democratic methods. In other words, Kominkans were requested as a base to root the culture of democracy in the daily lives of the Japanese people at that time. Next, I will talk about the challenges and developments of Kominkan. One of Kominkan's challenges is the limitation as physical facilities. Facility enforcement investments are vulnerable to situations involving infectious disease. There are some inequalities in accessing the Kominkan from the viewpoint of proximity to residential areas and the time allotment to use them. In addition, there could be competition for reservations in the use of facilities, meeting room, and halls. Secondly, I can point to the significance of public facility management. One of the serious problems is the simultaneous aging of facilities built during the period of rapid economic growth in the 1960s. As Japanese population is rapidly aging and the birth rate is declining, tax revenues are expected to decline as the working population decreases, and the future increase in maintenance costs of public facilities is recognized as a major problem. Thirdly, Kominkans have faced the criticism that lecture programs are individualistic. For example, there are those who criticize the use of public tax money for personal hobbies. Due to the inequality of access to facilities, there is an uneven distribution of users. Many of the users are elderly people and women who have more time and financial resources. Also, there is the problem of attracting participants. Highly entertaining events attract more people so that more programs are likely to become less and less serious or academic. In order to overcome these challenges, Kominkans are shifting to third type. This new type is Kominkan has characteristics that compensate for their weakness and synergize the strengths of the two preceding types. This emphasis is on group life and community development, while at the same time respecting individual interest and experience. It's governed mainly by social networks, not by hierarchical systems. The features of the modern types are as follows. The first feature is that it works as a network, not a single facility. The concept is that any place in the city can be a place of learning, and that everybody in the city can be both a teacher and a student. This type requires actively collaborating with diverse individuals and institutions. And the second feature is that it focuses on making connections rather than acquiring knowledge and skills. In order to that, we are expected to emphasize having fun and using dialogue, even when focusing on serious social issues. And we should recognize that What works for community development is not individual ability, but a good network, which is a basis for good governance. Finally, a case study will be presented before concluding. The case we are going to consider is in Amagasaki City. Amagasaki City has a population of about 450,000 and an area of 50 square kilometers. The location is close to the cities of Osaka and Kobe. The financial situation is severe, but citizens are cheerful and friendly. It has 41 elementary schools and 17 junior high schools. Also, there are 12 kominkans called Lifelong Learning Plaza. Here, I will explain about Amagasaki's policy and system. In the last few years, the city of Amagasaki has implemented comprehensive policy reforms for lifelong learning under the direction of the mayor. The directions of the reforms are migration from the old type of urban kominkan to the modern type, from hierarchical management to the network-based governance, and from each dependent kominkan facility to a lifelong learning network based around a kominkan. Under the reform, they made the decision to allocate costs to staffing rather than build more facilities, while at that time, gradually rebuilding some facilities which are aging. City employees assigned to a kominkan are expected to become community planners who go out more and more in the city rather than just doing routine tasks in a short time with precision. Now, I will talk about the strategies of the modern type of kominkan in Amagasaki. First, to have more fun is important to achieve the goal of solving serious social issues. Second, when we want to promote connections with others, find an effective way to do so. For example, Amagasaki has the ATTF, Amagasaki to the Future, which is a card game to improve citizenship. This was developed as a citizenship education program with a variety of people, including city officials, Amagasaki students, local school teachers, and social educators. This photo also shows a game being played. At this event, they rented a cafe as a venue to play games and learn about investment. This photo shows the coordination battle of the charity shop. This is a workshop where they can learn how a charity store from London works by choosing their favorite used clothes and trying to coordinate them. After this workshop, participants will be able to keep one piece of used clothing that they like. And what's more, the prize for the best outfit will be a set of clothes. Can you see? This photo shows the social engagement of the elderly over coffee. The senior citizens not only hold workshops to learn about coffee, but also serve coffee to the public on various occasions. Here we have some photos that show drone programming for both children and the elderly to learn together. Recently, programming education has become a compulsory subject in Japanese schools. This workshop was designed to bring multiple generations together to learn about programming. This picture shows children painting the parking lot of public facility. Since this year's zodiac sign is the tiger, they all drew big tigers. Thirdly, we should think that every child, every student Every person can be a good teacher of something about social problems and their solutions. And fourthly, for that, to have everyone to be a good teachers, we should have more dialogue, not only for connecting with others, but also for learning more broadly and more deeply. In these photos, we have vocational school students who are studying pets. They are teaching local students how to evacuate with their pets in the event of a disaster. In this picture, they are in a cafe discussing the speaker's fascination with race horses. In these photos, students gather comfortably at the Kominkan to discuss their ideas, opinions, and concerns about the community or society. So, in conclusion, Kominkan in Japan are now facing a new stage. In the past, residents of rural Kominkan learned systematically based on community life and community. However, in this era, feudalistic culture was strong and individuality was not respected. But as society has become more urbanized, people have gradually become more individualistic. Now, however, the tendency toward individualism in public education is once again being criticized. In order to overcome this, while respecting the individual in a way that suits the modern age, expectations are being placed on the role of social networks. Therefore, Kominkan in Japan are shifting to a modern model, overcoming the inequality of users and the criticism of individualism and promoting effective budget utility. The third type of Kominkan aims to be the hub of a network for learning for all. How do we achieve this? First of all, it is effective in making learning more fun. One of the ways to do this is to connect each person's favorite activities to society and use them to solve social problems. Physical facilities in a specific location and cannot be moved, but the staff can go out of that facilities and doing outreach. The role of the university is not only to send prominent researcher to the community as a lecturer, rather it is to help all residents to become good teachers of the community. In other words, the role of the university is not to directly provide something to the community, but to help foster a system and network for the community to learn autonomously. To this end, it will be essential to listen to the experience of individual students and engage in dialogue with each other for supporting and strengthening communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sato, for sharing with us your experiences and insights into Kominkans in Japan. We have received a question from the audience. So the question is, Dr. Sato, your presentation shows that university students are involved in delivering sessions in Kominkan targeted at community members. How do the community learning centers attract young people to come out and share their knowledge and views on social issues with more mature members of the community? And do the students get any credit for doing this in the university record of involvement or participation in these extracurricular activities? Dr. Sato, please.
My answer is at first through fun, not getting credit. But yeah, so some university has some courses as a field work in Amagasaki or other areas. So the students sometimes get credit through community activities, but in Kominkan's activities, there are no, people cannot get any formal credit, basically. Is it? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sato, for addressing our audience's question, and thank you for the inspirational presentation again. So thank you. Now joining us today for the last presentation is Professor Chang Ting-yong from Taiwan. Professor Chang is professor in the Department of Adult and Continuing Education at the National Taiwan Normal University, where he obtained his PhD in adult education. He was the head of department between 2012 and 2017. His research interests focus on community education, sociology of adult education, and adult education curriculum planning. He's been studying the development of community universities in Taiwan and the roles in social capital accumulation. His other research explored the accreditation of non-formal education and its quality assurance mechanism, as well as the professional development of teachers in community universities. In his presentation, Professor Chang will be sharing with us the current situation, development, and challenge of community universities in Taiwan. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Chang Ting-yong from Taiwan. Professor Chang, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation to attend the Academic Forum Series 6 for 30 anniversaries for HKMU LiPACE. It's my honor to have the presentation here online. The topic of my presentation is the current situation, development, and the challenges of community universities in Taiwan. Let's go to the next slide. Before I begin, I'd like to give an overview of my presentation. Here is the outline of the presentation. First is the origin of community universities. Second is the definition of community university. Third is the curriculum design and the teaching characteristics of community universities. Fourth is the impact of community universities on society. Fifth is the challenges for community universities. Let's go to the next slide. The origin of community universities in Taiwan. The establishment and the development of community universities were in line with the tide of education reform, lifelong learning, and the general community building movement 24 years ago, 1998 in Taiwan. After martial law was lifted, the society of Taiwan has experienced nearly a decade of instability. So pursue the liberation of knowledge and build a civil society are the two core concepts of community university. Community universities have become the most structured channels for lifelong education, and more than 89 universities have been founded and operated under non-profit and non-governmental organization management. Definition of community university. Community universities are lifelong learning institutions which are set up or commissioned by the competent authorities of municipalities and counties or cities outside the formal education systems to improve people's modern citizenship and public affairs, participation ability, assist in promoting local public affairs, strengthen local identity and the local creation. Community universities are also lifelong learning institutions that cultivate local talents, develop local culture, local knowledge, and promote the sustainable development of communities. Named on the community because they are come from the general people, not elite. Named on the university because they are different from the traditional university, but they want to liberate the package knowledge system. Curriculum design and the teaching characteristics of community university. Based on the two core concepts, the founder of community universities raised the idea of liberal education. The philosophy of liberal education is to cultivate the people with sound personality. It means a whole person education, training the three H's people. The three types of curricula are: first, liberal education. Their goal is to train the head. Second, association activities curriculum. Their goal is to train the heart. Third is life skill curriculum. Their goal is to train hands. Let's go to the next slide. Here is the paragraph of the curriculum concepts of community university. The paragraph presents the image of human body. First, we look at this head. The head presents the thinking brain. In other words, through academic or liberal education courses, they can raise the people's thinking ability. Second, we look at the heart. We also call heart. We also call the mind. It means warm heart. In other words, through association activities courses, they will cultivate people with caring for the people in need and the society to improve. Third, we look at the hands. The hands presents doing by yourself. In other words, through life skill training courses, they will realize the value of life of the people. Let's go to the next slide. The impact of community universities on society. Based on the above perspectives, community university should play a crucial role to promote the community education, lifelong learning, and to unfold the public domain. Community universities make positive impacts on the society in aspects such as democratization, equal distribution of social resources, and the improvement of quality of life within communities. Recently, more and more local scholars started to pay attention to the university's engagement and the contribution in accumulating social capitals. As everyone knows, social capital it means includes community networks, trust, reciprocity, and the social norms at central. Let's go to the next slide. The challenge for community universities, they have 5 parts. First, continue to pursue the positioning of roles and functions of society. Because the positioning of the community university is not clear, they want to continue to seek social approval. Second, difficulties in constructing a unique locality knowledge system, because community university advocates for policy identity, community knowledge, life and experience knowledge. But how the practical things become knowledge is a problem. Third, how feasible by degree of lifelong learning through credentialism. Because community university wants to gain social recognition through lifelong diplomas. Fourth, how to make communication participation into community empowerment. Because it is difficult to raise the consciousness of the people in the community just through general community activity participation. Fifth, emphasize that the publicity of the curriculum is affected by marketization. It means cultivating civic awareness through curriculum is affected by the marketization of capitalism, because most people, most adult students like popular courses for leisure and pleasure. The paragraph shows us that the community university's 20th anniversary poster, the slogan of the community universities are learn locally, change locally. Here is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. Please advise.
Thank you so much, Professor Chang, for sharing with us your insights into the developments and challenges of community universities in Taiwan. So we have received a question from the audience. Professor Chang, you have enumerated the curriculum concepts for community university as consisting of 3 types of curricula. Can you share with us that in actual practice, which of the 3 concepts has gained upper ground in terms of course offerings in community universities? Professor Chan, please.
Yes, thank you for the question. As my mentioned above, the 3 curriculum are very special for the community university in Taiwan. Some of the people will recognize the community colleges are the same as Taiwan, but it's different. We call it community universities because it's a lifelong learning, but the innovator of the community university, the founder of the university are a retired professor at Taiwan University. Most of the curriculums, they have 128 scores, but the 3 types of the curriculum, most of the curriculum are life skills. Life skills curriculum are very popular and for pleasure and leisure for most adult students. So it's the answer of my, this is my answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Chan, for addressing our audience's question. Thank you to all our honorable speakers again for sharing their valuable experiences and insights today. We have thoroughly enjoyed and learned a lot from everyone. Now we are excited to move on to the final part of the forum, where we will be having a panel discussion with all of our speakers about the role of non-formal education in connecting universities with communities. We are very pleased to have our Dean, Dr. Chan Tak Yuen Benjamin, who will be moderating the discussion and sharing with us our experience in non-formal learning in HKMU LiPACE. Let's welcome our Dean, Dr. Chan, please.
Thank you, Kathy. First of all, I'd like to greet our speakers, Dr. Tomi, Dr. Sato, Professor Chang, good afternoon. Pleasant good afternoon also to our local colleagues in Hong Kong and to our overseas participants. Before we move on to the panel discussion, I'd like to be able to say something about the kind of non-formal learning that we're doing in this school to give everybody a concept about what's happening on the ground in Hong Kong. In the Hong Kong Metropolitan University LiPACE, we run a program called the Capacity Building Mileage Program. This is a program which was started long ago, about 17 years ago, and back in 2004. It was set up under the auspices of the Women's Commission, specifically aimed at empowering women of different backgrounds by giving them different kinds of courses through the medium of self-learning, flexibility, with the aims of achieving the following: creating a positive mindset, facilitating self-development, enhancing inner strength, pursuing lifelong learning, enriching life experience. It is a form of non-formal education, and it is not employment-oriented. It leads to no academic qualification as a prerequisite before the learners can come in to study. Although it is a non-formal education type of operation, we do award different kinds of certificates to learners upon completion, but there is no examination requirements. And in relation to the mode of learning, the time and the location, as much as possible, we make it flexible. And apart from learning contents in specific courses, one of the other major objectives is to expand the learner's social network. There are various modes of learning. Principally, there are three modes of learning. The conventional one, face-to-face, this is still the major form of learning engagement. We deliver this in collaboration with our non-governmental organization partners scattered all around Hong Kong. We also have e-learning mode based on e-learning materials. And then we have the radio broadcast mode, which is done in collaboration with one of the private broadcasters in Hong Kong, Metro Broadcast. And then because of the coronavirus pandemic contingency, we also move a lot of the face-to-face classes online by Zoom. You probably want to know what are the kinds of courses and how would you classify the courses into categories. So there are 5 learning domains. They're classified into personal development, care and health, science and technology, wisdom of life, arts and culture, and a total, I think we have around 120 courses. Some are being developed, others are in operation. At any one time, we have about 80 to 100 courses available for learners to choose from. And here are some of the examples that you can see under each of the categories. To date, I reported to you a while ago that we operated this scheme since 2004, so it's 16 years old. To date, we have accumulated 117,000 enrollment headcounts. These are not individual learners because one learner may study several courses. So it's accumulated headcounts of 117,000. And we depend very much on NGO, non-governmental organizations to help us deliver the face-to-face mode across Hong Kong. Although Hong Kong is a very small place, we do have a very dense population. So we have 18 districts. So we are now able to cover all the 18 districts across Hong Kong. And of the courses on offer, you may want to know what are the top choices. So here are the top choices. First one is presentation skills, and then it's followed by computer literacy. Chinese diet therapy, understanding Chinese medicine, obviously it brings health benefits to the learners. And then we have home maintenance and repair tips to keep the household in order, which is also very much in demand. So these are the kinds of courses that are most popular with the learners. We have a lot of courses. I explained a while ago, we have almost 180 to 100 courses available at any one time. But these 5 courses take up, I think, in the region of 40% of the total. So you would understand the popularity of these type of courses. Next one, please. And then into the student demographics, I give the example of the student population from last year. So in terms of gender distribution, because this is a program for women learners, so you would expect the majority to be women learners, to be female learners. So as is the case here. And then you might ask, how come there are also male learners? So these are the husbands or the relatives of the female participants. So that's a very small number, about 5 to 10% at any one time. And then in relation to the age group, it is quite skewed towards the 60 and above. I suppose this group of learners, they are retirees, they have the time to study, so you would expect more of them on the age group of 60 and above. And in relation to working status, most of them are housewives. You do also find some full-time workers, but not many. And for education level, the vast majority of our students have at least a secondary education level or above. And as I mentioned a while ago, this program, this capacity building mileage program is not formal education, but we still award a kind of a certificate. So how do we do that? Each course is based on a point system. So if the student completes the assessment is very simple. It's a continuous form of assessment. They will be awarded 4 points. And if they attended all the sessions, they will be given 1 point. So then 4 plus 1, they will get 5 points for each course. Once they have accumulated 5 of these 5 points, 25 for 5 courses, that would be 1 level. And there are a total of 6 levels to a total of 200 points. So how is this converted to the formal education system now? I heard from the speakers, in particular, Professor Zhang talks about credentials, mapping it to the formal education system. So what happens with our CBMP was, a few years ago, we were also asked to do the same thing, how to take this along the non-formal learning into the formal education system. And I don't know whether you're aware that Hong Kong operates a 7-level qualifications framework system, which is on the top part of this diagram. We tag on 2 of our CBMP courses, job searching skills and life planning management, into level 2 of the qualifications framework. So then it becomes convertible to the formal credit system of the qualification framework. And the other thing that we are trying to do right now is that we are planning 2 new courses. These 2 new courses are on transitioning from the home to work. This is for women who perhaps have grown-up children and would like to return to the workforce, and also retirees who would like to do casual jobs. And they may have difficulty fitting into the job market. So we have courses being planned. So once these courses are being delivered, we will be talking to the relevant agencies like the Employees Retraining Board to have them recognized for prior learning so that there will be no duplication of learning. And one very important thing that has been negotiated with our own university long time ago when this scheme was set up is that the student who has completed 200 points or they have achieved CBMP level 6, they will get 10 credits exemption to our university's part-time distance learning degree program. Our degree program is divided into 2 levels. A pass degree requires 120 credits. An honors degree requires 160 credits. So upon completion of CBMP level 6, there is an exemption, accredited exemption of 10 credits into the degree program of university part-time distance learning. I would say that given the experience of operating the capacity building mileage program in Hong Kong, it's government funded, it's been well received by this particular group of women learners. There are not many similar schemes in operation in Hong Kong. I would say it's a representative. It's representative of adult education that is operating in Hong Kong. It's the gem of our adult education. But as with any kind of education, there are always issues that could be brought out for exploration and discussion, in particular in an intellectual exchange like this forum. So I think the very first point is that there's very limited provision, apart from the CBMP scheme, which is non-formal education funded by the government. The rest of continuing education in Hong Kong is fully marketized. It's leaned towards fee-paying individuals paying for their own education. The second point, as you would notice from the data, is the skewed distribution. So we don't get a lot of learners from the age group like the 30 to 40 years old, not many. We have mostly 60 and above. And then there's a very narrowed preference for course choices. Like what I have showed you, the top 5 preferences, they occupy almost 40% of all the course subscriptions. And as you would expect with marketization of continuing education, individualization of learning has always happened. And learning together as a group, which is the hallmark of good adult education, is not very much a substance of adult education here in our place. And talking about social capital formation, there is social capital. We believe there is social capital being formed by learners coming together. But as you would notice, in our context, because the NGOs are the partners, they are the ones who are encouraging learners to come together to learn. So you could say in one way or another, the social capital formation is being brokered by the NGO workers. It's not bottom up from the learners themselves. And then a perennial preoccupation, I think, nowadays is the tendency for vocationalization. Everybody talks about skills, picking up skills, and credentialism, gaining credits, gaining qualifications. So I think these are the things that could characterize as the issues that we face in Hong Kong. I think they are somehow similar to some of the issues brought up by the various speakers a while ago. So this is my short sharing before we move on to the panel discussion. So thank you for this part. Okay, right. Now, moving to our discussion, I noticed that in different countries and different regions represented by our speakers, you have different ways of organizing non-formal learning. I was just wondering, in your country or in your region, is there a role for your university sector in non-formal education? Because that doesn't seem to be appearing in the presentation. So I'm just curious to know, what is the role of the university sector? Do we start with Professor Zhang?
Yes, thank you for your question. The university in Taiwan are very many universities in Taiwan. That recently we have a program about the university in the USR university. USR means University Social Responsibility. Our Ministry of Education encourage many universities to have the plan to have the connection with your community, but they are different from the community university, as I mentioned in my presentation, because university have their laws in academic, but the community university are lifelong learning institutions. They are very different. So it's impossible to connect the two institutions together because they have different roles. But the community universities in Taiwan, as I mentioned above, they are a connection to the social movement because they want to liberate the elite knowledge. But they want to give the they want to transform the society. They want to use the adult education system to change the society. It's very different from the academic roles in the university. So my answer is some of my university in Taiwan also have the advanced college about lifelong learning. They also focus on the credentialism. So it's very different from the adult education. Yes, it's my answer.
I heard I read somewhere about the system in Taiwan. Somehow there seems to be a pathway whereby the studies done in community universities can have up to 28 credits counted in university studies. Is that correct?
Not very correct, because we have informal education system, but not a very it's not a very good mechanism. Before about 10 years ago, I responsed the project. It's just a project to accelerate the courses of the course of community university. Some of the courses are recognized by the university, but very not much.
Mm-hmm.
Just recognized by the Open University of Taiwan. Some of our university, they are not approved these courses.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Laurie, would you like to share the experience from Finland?
Okay. So yes, thank you. Yes, even though the role of universities was not that visible in my presentation, I would say that universities have very strong role, actually the strongest role which can be imagined, because in Finland, the teachers in non-formal education, they need to be qualified. And that is actually a kind of a two-way or three-way way to develop the teachers. They need to have substance, of course, on their field. So they usually have, mainly even in non-formal education, have master's degree in education and their substance degree, and also the teacher's qualification. And that's the role of the universities to train the teachers in Finland to all of the sectors. And of course, that's the main competence base for the non-formal sector. But besides that also research is important. In Finland, we see that education needs to be developed with the newest knowledge of research. So as I'm also attending as a board member of Finnish Association of Adult Education, we have kind of gathered a separate research forum on non-formal adult education. So the scientists from different universities in Finland have created a network on which they continuously share the information regarding the newest research results. And also we have supported the researchers in the field. And also in this respect, that has been one of the ways to develop the sector as a whole. So there is a lot of happening beside the sector itself. And of course, in the sector, as I told about the provision of non-formal adult education in Finland and liberal adult education, of course, the summer universities are a specific sector on which they provide the open university courses as non-formal based or liberal based adult education. And thinking about our foundation also, we support and collect also researchers and practitioners to work together. So there are currently quite many common projects on which also the idea is to transfer the newest knowledge from research side to the practice in the field, and also vice versa, to provide the sector and liberal education to be a kind of base for the new research to be made. So I would say that universities have very, very strong role in the field, even though it's a kind of the enabler of the sector.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Dr. Sato, from your presentation, I very much like what you said about the university students participating in various kinds of activities in the Kominkan. You can see them actively interacting with the elderly, the local population. Does it happen, because you used the example of a city somewhere, how about in your university or in the prefecture where you are in? Do you also engage in this kind of activity for your students?
Yes, so basically in Japan, Japan has the open university, and basically vocational education is carried by universities or vocational schools. As you know, in Japan, the number of children is decreasing and the university is many. So the role of universities is diversified by each university. Some universities focusing on the high-level research, but many universities supports for students who are not students to support their lifelong learning. For example, some university made some MOOCs, online learning contents, or some kinds of activities for students, for example, open seminars like this, or and in addition, lifelong learning is not directly the drive, the motivation, but as I introduced, for the development of higher education of universities, there are more classes as a service learning. For example, students go out for the community to learn or to get some experience. So, yeah, totally the relationship between universities and community is partially indirectly, but the relationship is more stronger than before, I think.
Thank you. The next thing I'd like to explore with our speakers is about the funding. I read about the Finnish system, which is very well provided. I saw that the figure committed in the education budget for adult education is said to be around 7%. And that is quite a very high figure. Is that a true reflection of the picture? And how are you able to get that much resources coming into your adult education provisions? Laurie, please.
Okay. Maybe, of course, one of the reasons is that the Finland, as I started saying, that education is seen one of the crucial elements of the success of the society. So there has been the kind of tradition to fund for the education. But of course, these times have been quite hard, even to the education sector, because of the pandemic and other societal challenges. Also, it means that we need to continuously also have this a dialogue with the politicians in order to ensure the importance of non-formal adult education and liberal adult education. And annually, of course, we do a lot of advocacy work, but luckily, of course, as 1 million adults annually participate non-formal education, of course, there's a strong part of politicians who have also attended courses. So almost everyone in Finland have some connection to or experience on the sector. So it's a very good base to. If you have experience in the field, it's then better to make decisions also which are supporting the funding of the sector.
And then the picture in Taiwan and in Japan, I think, is that the Komintans and the community universities are pretty locally based. The funding, I think, is local, mainly local. Is there any contribution coming from the learner if they take courses? Do they need to pay a little bit of money?
Do
they pay for the courses?
Sometimes, but basically it's not expensive or free, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the activities of Kominka depends on the budget of the local government. So some local government financial condition is very severe. So almost all Kominka faces very severe situation. So recently, not only Kominka, but also whole societies, in Japan, we focus on the social business. It means each non-prohibited activities became should be a business. Each association should be independent as a business without any payment, any fundings. So sorry, I couldn't explain where. So
how about the situation in Taiwan, Professor Chang? Do the learners have to pay a little bit of money to study the courses?
Because the law of the community universities, they are also lifelong learning institutions, come from the university, come from the community. So caring for the minorities are their roles. So if they have the minority students, they should get the low. They should cut their pay. So the community universities have the contribution to the community. It's my answer.
Okay, and probably one last point for discussion is that the majority of courses, like in our context, the majority of courses are designed by professional adult educators like ourselves. And I was just wondering whether, in your context, is there any scope for the learners to come up with ideas that they want, the thing that they want to learn, and then they tell the NGO or the agency that they want a certain kind of course, and that kind of course will be built for them. Is there such a scope? Laurie, would you like to contribute your point from Finland?
Yes, if I may. Of course, that has been the tradition in Finland also, that we have been very institutionalized on the provision of non-formal education. But today there are many attempts to invite the participants and citizens to provide their ideas. So many institutions use so-called focus groups. So they collect citizens nearby from the community to discuss and share their ideas. And also the digital tools have been used for gathering to wishes or expectations for the curricula. Those are already there, but not as a major part of the planning. Because it has been seen, as I said, the challenge is that the lifelong learning is cumulative. So the persons on the course, let's say learning English language on the level 3, they want to get more. So it's a kind of process on which we need to have new participants to bring their ideas, and that's the way or the process of outreach that the institutions go outside and meet the citizens and share their ideas, and in this respect, one of the from our foundation, one of our new issue is that we actually gather the community people together, and we have selected the theme, and under the theme we will discuss with the citizens what would they like to learn, what is the best they would like to learn on the topic. And today the most we have of course asked about the themes, so people are very keen on the issues, how they could kind of support or support the climate issues or environmental issues, or how they could understand nature more, or also the circular economy issues are of interests. So if we discuss about the theme, then we will and have to get many very good grassroots-based ideas how we could then promote. And then, of course, the teaching changes to be more like a guidance of the theme, and not the kind of classroom-based learning setting. So these are the issues on which we are now trying to handle the issue to get more ideas from the citizens.
And Dr. Sato and Professor Zhang, would you like to add your perspectives to this? The idea of what to be learned comes from the learner, because a lot of the courses are designed by professional adult educators. They're packaged. Yes. Yeah. So what I'm asking is there any leeway for the learners to come up with ideas and then proposing it to the community universities that I want to learn this, please, can you provide it to us, that kind of interaction?
Because especially in the community university in Taiwan, just as I mentioned in my presentation, the 3 courses, the first is the academic curriculum, the third is life skills, but most of the courses are life skills. They still cannot change these tendencies. Most of the students like the popular courses like dance, like sports, like music, but they don't like the academic courses. So it's very difficult. But from the point of view of education, we have the value direction to raise the consciousness of the people. For example, the community consciousness, care for the public affairs. So it's our hard work, but we should try. Yes, it's my.
Thank you for that point. Yes, I think we share the same ideals. Yes. How about Professor Sato? What do you think about this?
I think it's a difficult question. But, in our university, I'm in charge of general courses for first-year students in our university. So, and I committed the development of education for first-year students. I think it's important to feel fun, through fun. And yeah, so learners' motivation should be from feeling fun, I think, in my belief. So in my classes, I introduce more dialogue or more activity of students. Sometimes students think and design their own workshop by themselves. So I'm a teacher. My role is not to teach, but to facilitate their motivations and to promote their activities, I think. So yeah, it's important to get up learners' motivation. So we think we should think how to increase learners' motivation, I believe. That's all.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious about the time. So once again, thank you very much to Laurie, to Dr. Sato, Professor Zhang. Thank you very much for coming in and accepting our invitation. I hope that in the future we could have more discussions of similar nature, more exchanges with Finland, with Japan, with Taiwan, and other countries in the region, and also in Europe. So we hope to be able to set up more of this type of academic forums in future. Okay, so thank you very much once again, and thank you very much to all our participants. So let me turn over to our MC, Kathy. Kathy, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chan, for your presentation and for leading the panel discussion. And thank you to all our speakers for bringing their expertise and experience around the world and engaging in such academically stimulating, constructive, and open exchanges. So ladies and gentlemen, this is now the end of our academic forum. On behalf of Hong Kong Metropolitan University, thank you very much to you all for making time in your busy schedules to join us here today. It's been our great pleasure to host this event, and I wish you all a pleasant day. So take care and goodbye now.